Hello, my name is Alison, or Dela, and I'm going to let you know that I've altered the title of my talk to be The Power of the Circle. Because in order to go in a rabbit hole, you have to go into the circle. So I want to tell you why I love circles so much. But before we do, I want to invite you to plant your feet flat on the floor and just take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Let's take 2 more breaths together so we can connect. Can you expand your awareness to feel all the people in this room or the room where you're watching? Take a breath in and exhale. And on this 3rd and final breath, can you expand your awareness outside of this room or the room where you are to the land around you and to the place around you? Breathe in and exhale. I want to honor with those 3 breaths that we are here on Tongva land, the land of the Tongva, the Chumash, the Tataviam, and the Quiche, and the Gabrielino. The first people who are here and continue to be here, and their generations to come. I want to honor that in this land around us, we have the land, plant, animal, and elemental relatives who are here and continue to be in this place, continue to create this place, and build this land that we are on. Can I invite you to take 1 more breath as you breathe all that in and exhale. Now, as I said, my name is Alison and Dela, and I'm the eldest of 3 children born to an immigrant from the Philippines and a white woman migrant from Columbus, Ohio. The eldest of 3, the eldest daughter called an ate. And in my family, I was the caretaker. I was raised to be aware of my parents and my siblings, and I often served as a mediator between each of them or both sets. I have lived a life just wanting to help people, but it wasn't until I found myself in a circle, that I truly found my place. As a teenager, I did a youth dialogue project through the National Conference for Communities in Justice. And I spent a lot of time meeting with, listening to, and connecting to other teenagers throughout Southern California while sitting in circles. While we would have large group activities or we would have experiences and hear data, I appreciated the opportunity to come back into a smaller circle where I was meant to have each of us have an opportunity to listen and share and to articulate the thoughts that had been formulating in my body and seeking a space to exhale and share. Since then, I've spent the last 35 years sitting in circles, standing in circles, dancing in circles with peers and strangers and communities and colleagues towards a better understanding of myself and the communities where I live and work. Now, the rules of every circle are different because the goal of every circle is different. As a teenager, I spent time in those circles where our goal was to experience things and have an opportunity to connect to my own identities and to begin to listen and hold space for the experiences of others. These first circles helped me to grow what I call my listening muscles, right? To discover the power of not just listening, but actively listening. Of really being present for someone and not just rushing to respond or to be right, but simply to listen and take in the truth and vulnerability of what that person was sharing. And then to find a way to reflect and share it back and say, I heard you say this. Like the speaker before me, I heard her say she doubted that she wanted to share this story with us today. In these circles, I was encouraged not only to listen, but to actively listen with my whole body. And I was encouraged to strengthen all those listening muscles so that I could not only track what you're saying, but be able to remember it, synthesize it, and repeat it back to you in your words. Thank you. I heard what you said. This is what I heard you say, is often the way that I would repeat this back. Or, I heard you say that you're really frustrated because you feel silenced at home. Whatever it is, wanting to respond back. One reason a circle can be powerful is that it can be a place where we agree to enter with a set of agreements. We agree that in this space, these guidelines, so that when we join this circle, I'll speak for myself, so that I can listen, so that I can observe, so that I can witness the experiences and the voices of other people. A circle can be powerful because it can also be a place where I know that I have a turn to share. As the oldest sister and caretaker in my family, I didn't always feel like I had a place to share. But as I continued to grow, I continued to discover the power of circles. And so I became a professional theater maker, a writer, a director, an actor, and even behind the scenes crew, a theater teacher, and a producer. As a theater maker, I sat in circles at the top. We stood in circles at the top of our work. Sometimes it's a session to check in with the team. Maybe we're working with artists, or with the stage manager and the backstage crew, or I'm standing in a circle with the house manager and the front of house crew. It is our place and our time to lay eyes on each other and huddle about so that we make sure we're on the same page and that we push for the same goals. There are even several theater games that we play that are all based on circles. One of my favorites is called Circle Dash. I hope to teach it to you one day. And when I'm in this group and I'm working, it is really this process of making a play together, whether it's a new play or a performance. To make these new things, we stand in a circle to gather and begin our work or our practice. The circle is our place to warm up and play games. The circle is our place to brainstorm and explore. The circle is our place to return to after we've had a tough rehearsal or faced a conflict or a challenge, just because we're trying to create something dynamic for our audience. See, the art of making a circle as a human is something that we've been doing for a really, really long time, like thousands of years. We have gathered around fires in a circle to help keep us warm or safe or connected to each other. Research tells us that humans have been making circles for a really long time. I think about my own familial history on both sides, my white and my Filipino sides. We come from tribal people who gathered around fires in circles. Researchers have also found mammoth bones in circles from like 20,000 years ago in Ukraine and Russia. You can even go back farther, 176. There's evidence found that some circles were made, stone circles were made by Neanderthals in what is modern day France over 176,000 years ago. And finally, my favorite piece of evidence is in South Africa from 3 million years ago. They found remnants of humans making circles. Circles have been found in everything from early art and rituals to architecture, astronomical alignments, and scientific concepts. Like, how do you determine the area of a circle? When I stand in a circle, I can somehow feel an ancient and sacred connection. When a circle is done right, it allows me to have my own place while also being able to witness and see everyone else. Because you have to be able to see each other in a circle, right? So here I am, a person who loves circles, and 10 years ago, I happened upon this circle practice called Fandango Obon. Now, you already know I love circles, and it's a place for me to have my place, it's a place to talk, it's a place for me to work in theater making, but here was a way, through Fandango Obon, to use the circle not only as a place to gather and dialogue and rehearse or produce something, but here with Fandango Obon, we were able to move together. And I've started to call this circle practice because it's just an easier way to explain it. So let me break it down. Fandango Obon. Fandango comes from the San Jarocho tradition or Fandango tradition from Veracruz, Mexico. Rooted in African, Mexican, and indigenous music, where fandangueros, fandangueras, fandanguerecs gather around a tarima or a platform where a dancer keeps rhythms with their feet as the jarana or the guitars play the melodies and everybody sings and dances together. Sometimes it's like a poetic battle, sometimes they're singing their favorite song. So we have the fandango practice. Now let's think about Japanese obon. That comes out of a Buddhist tradition of honoring ancestors through bon odori, or circle dances, and they're passed down from generations. And in recent years, Japanese Americans have written whole new songs to talk about and commemorate their lives lived here in the United States or around the world. So when I met artists Nobuko Miyamoto, Quetzal Flores, and Martha Gonzalez, they started to talk with each other about how their circle practices connect, and they realized they were onto something, because they weren't the only ones making dances in circles. They started to talk to Nigerian and West African drumming elders, Francis Awe and Omowale Awe, about their circle practices. And suddenly they realized they were really onto a thing. Because now Fandango Obon, as it's known, is a circle practice that welcomes not only Mexican, Japanese, and Nigerian artists and communities, but it has expanded to include all of West Africa. And over its 13-year history, it's continued to engage Tongva elders, Sufi Muslim Hadra practitioners, an LGBTQ community of resilience, dancing and singing, the Palestinian Debka, and the Cordillera Mountain provinces from the Philippines. But the magic of Fandango Obon is that any circle practice can join us. The tradition has welcomed people into the circle to dance, to play, and to sing and move together. Not into a meeting, not into a melting pot or a fusion, but into a cultural conversation in the circle. Now, the first time I did this practice, I couldn't believe that I felt so amazing. I'm dancing around with people. This is simple, right? But when I started to work with Fandango Obon full-time through my job at Great Leap, it was magic. To be in a circle with people and feel connected to them without even trying. Not like a Wi-Fi, but like a humanity-fi, right? Like there was this amazing tether between us. And many of us involved started to notice that folks also, in dancing together, we discovered that moving together and dancing together does actually make us feel connected. So we started to talk to different researchers. We talked to a neurobiologist from Caltech last year. And what happens to our brains and our bodies when we're actually dancing and moving together? Well, there's this scientific idea called entrainment. Biological rhythms, including our heart rate and our breathing, naturally adjust to an external, steady rhythm like the beat of music. As this starts, we start to discover that there's like a group synchronization, right? When people listen to or perform music together, their heart rates can become synchronized. Studies have shown that members of a choir, for example, will have heart rates that begin to beat in the same rhythm. It is thought that synchronization is because individuals enter a mental state while focusing on the shared task of the music, which then influences their hearts and their own cardiac regulation. Finally, it's this shared rhythm that can create a sense of union and belonging beyond our heartbeats linking. Groups that are singing together have also been known to show lower levels of stress, the stress hormone cortisol, and improve their oxygen levels. And so I go back to thinking about my spot in the circle and the power of being able to listen and tuning in and strengthening those listening muscles. And then to expand that to what that means when we're here together dancing in a circle. Circles are places where we can cultivate to listen and share with each other. They can be places where we can create original new projects and plays, but they can also literally help us feel better and more connected to each other while we're dancing and singing and doing tasks together. Circles are a part of this ancient wisdom that's locked within each of us. And that sharing these ancient tools towards connecting to each other actually reminds us and grounds us and brings us together. Because, as I said, when we're in circles together, we're actually able to connect to our own humanity and our own human-fi or humanity-fi. And that's something that I want to do more of. Thank you so much.